Welcome to the InfoMullet YouTube channel. If you enjoy this content, please like or share. And if you'd like to support the InfoMullet by becoming a mulleteer, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate your support. National issues. The first one of which is the Ethiopian Civil War. I talked about this over the last couple of weeks, and I've actually mentioned the tensions in Ethiopia going back in the summer. And even if you go, there's when in the Ask Me Anything forecast for 2020, I specifically called out Ethiopia as at an increased risk of instability, along with some other countries that are in the sort of an area. But you know, that's the benefit of the Ask Me Anything. You want to know what's going to happen in the year ahead? Ask me, I'll let you know, and then you can hear me talk about it on the videos. But so what's going on in Ethiopia is, let's see here. Sorry, I've got the Zoom thing in that. There we go. So over the summer, there was ethnic violence in Ethiopia. Ethiopia as a country has probably 80 different ethnic divisions. The Oromo are in the south part. They are a large ethnic group, traditionally get suppressed. This is not the same. The civil war that has broken out in Ethiopia is actually in the north, and what it involves for context. So people recognize, here's the Red Sea. We're in what's called the Horn of Africa. You got Djibouti, Somali, Eritrea, Sudan. We're south of Egypt, west of Yemen, north of Mozambique and those areas, Kenya. So Ethiopia here, the Tigray region in the north is the area of Ethiopia. It's a minority group. It doesn't have a lot of people, but it was in charge of Ethiopia. They were the predominant ruling power for a long time. And they actually had, Sudan nearby had a dictator, al-Bashir. Al-Bashir had good relations with the Tigray. They had these agreements in power. They lost power last year in 2019. They lost the power. And they lost it to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who is Oromo. So again, the Prime Minister is now of this majority ethnic group that has been out of power for a long time. And this goes back to a long-standing conflict that goes back in the 70s with communist groups and stuff like that. The Tigray lost power. And whenever you have a group that's used to power lose power, it gets very dangerous very fast. And what happened is they were invited into a power sharing agreement. And instead, what Tigray did is they held their own autonomous election. They held it wasn't really autonomous. It wasn't like it was separate, but they were trying to vote a parliament for their region. And because of COVID-19, Ethiopia has delayed elections across the board. They've said you can't hold elections, which is a controversial move. I'll grant them that. Tigray went ahead and held the elections anyway and said, we're not going to listen to you. This is our ruling parliament. The Ethiopian federal government refused to recognize that parliament. And you have a situation somewhat similar to Spain, where you have Catalonia and areas like that creating autonomous regions and creating sort of separatist groups. The difference is that Tigray, for a long time, was the bedrock of the military forces of Ethiopia. So even though we think of autonomous regions, we think of like poorly armed, non-state actor, indigenous groups, that's not the case here. The Ethiopian armed forces is about 350,000. The Tigrayan armed forces is 250,000. Now that's special forces, paramilitary police, and a large group of reserves. But they are very well armed, they're very well trained. And what happened was, a couple weeks ago, there was this escalating tension. And Tigray, whether you want to call it a preemptive attack with justification or just a preemptive attack, Tigray said they were worried about being attacked by the Ethiopian government. They attacked federal military bases in the Tigray region and took even more armaments, and some federal soldiers defected to the Tigray side. So now you have a civil war. And what's happened in the last 2 weeks, right through the US election, is this has gotten more fierce as the Ethiopian federal forces have begun doing airstrikes into the Tigray region. You can see where these airstrikes are in this northern area here. Mekelle is sort of the capital city, the main city of Tigray. And you can see there's about 8,000 or 5,000 to 8,000 refugees have fled into Sudan. There's heavy fighting. There's been rumors of brutal ethnic cleansing. A couple hundred people getting shot or killed. And what's happened is this conflict is expanding. So, brief history of the region, if you're not familiar. Ethiopia has a northern neighbor called Eritrea, and Eritrea used to be part of Ethiopia as a combined country going back to, I think it was 1993, there was an independence war where Eritrea split off from Ethiopia. Now, Ethiopia, as a standalone kingdom, has a legacy going back thousands of years. It has a continuous sort of monarchical with different rulers and whatnot, dynasties, so to speak, but it's had a long-standing presence. Eritrea splits off in 1993, and that tension, that independence movement was against the Tigrayan people. So you think about there's a border shared here on the north between Eritrea and Tigray, and the Eritreans don't trust the Tigrayans don't trust the Eritreans. There were rumors that when the civil war started, Eritrea was beginning to mobilize military to support Ethiopia in intervening in Tigray. This led to the launch of ballistic missiles into Eritrea, the capital city of Amsara. The ballistic missiles hit in that capital city and caused casualties. So, I mean, when I say that Tigrayan is a well-armed group, this isn't like guys running around in Toyota pickups and Hiluxes and things like that with machine guns. They got their hands on ballistic missiles and they know how to fire them. So this this attack was done, in theory, the Tigrayans said we did it because we thought they were mobilizing their military. Others think they're trying to draw Eritrea in and create a broader conflict. And you have Sudan over here, also is very tense. Now, Ethiopia was already in a tense environment with Egypt and Sudan anyways, because if you look at this geography here, this Lake Tana, if you follow this river down here, as it circles around, it's called the Blue Nile. And this is the headwaters of the Nile. It goes all the way up here into the Nile, and this goes through Sudan into Egypt and is the lifeblood. Well, there are two dams that are being built, the Grand Renaissance Dam project, and I think the main one is being built right here where this label is, Beshnagol Gumez. And so there's already political tensions that this dam is being used to stop the waters at the headwind and fill in reservoirs, and it's going to parch the deserts that need the Nile to survive. So Sudan and Egypt have been negotiating with Ethiopia, and this exacerbates this current situation. Now, I don't think Sudan and Egypt are going to intervene militarily. But they may put in place sort of additional asks in the negotiations about this Tigrayan conflict. The African Union, of which they're both part of, is sort of involved diplomatically, but so far, no external parties, at least as of today, have intervened that we know of officially, other than the Ethiopian federal government and the Tigrayan federal government. Now, the Ethiopian government has moved in and is sort of capturing cities one by one, but again, this is a very well-armed, well-trained Tigrayan military. As they fall back, they may be able to consolidate their positions and move into a much more protracted conflict, something like you might see in the East Ukraine conflict that has gone on for 5 or 6 years now. So that's what's going on in Ethiopia. That civil war broke out literally as I was doing the post-election day analysis. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to follow the InfoMullet, visit us on Facebook or Twitter. And if you'd like notifications when we post new video content, click on the red subscribe button below the video. If you've ever wanted to become a mulleteer and support the InfoMullet, visit us on Patreon. We appreciate the support.